Hey everyone, welcome to question 9 from the chapter 6 review. We want to solve the trigonometric equation. The sine of x is equal to negative 92 hundredths for all solutions on the interval where x is between 0 and 2 pi. So notice this time they're not saying for all possible values. They are restricting your solutions to be within one revolution of a circle. So our domain, we want to keep that in mind. The other thing that we want to note here is that the output of our trig function is giving us a ratio that is negative 0.92. So that's not a common value that we see on our unit circle. So we're going to need our calculators in order to accomplish this. So what I would encourage you to do is go ahead and pause the video and grab your calculator if you haven't already. And I'm assuming that if you're back and that you have your calculator out and your fingers are ready to do some calculating. So the first thing that I would suggest doing is making sure that your calculator is in radians instead of degrees because of the domain restriction that we have on x. They're telling you that it's between 0 and 2 pi as opposed to 0 and 360. So if we're going to type that in, we would have the sine inverse of 92 hundredths. And if we calculate this, we're going to get a radian measure of negative 1.168080485. So again, to stress this value that we have here is an angle measure. And actually, as we continue to work through this, we can treat this like a reference angle. So I'm just going to note this here. So treat like a reference angle, and I will explain that a little bit more as we dive deeper into the video. The other thing that I want you to know here is, again, remind yourself that the negative 92 hundredths, this is the result of the ratio of y over r, because again, we know that the sine of an angle gives us the ratio of the y value from our coordinate point divided by the radius. Okay, so again, I'm going to revisit this idea that my domain restriction for my x value has to be between 0 and 2 pi. The angle measure that I got here is a negative. So if we were to graph that on the circle that I have here, I have to go clockwise instead of my usual counterclockwise. So this angle here is the negative 1.168, and I'm just going to truncate it there for the sake of time. So I need to rewrite this. So in other words, one of my answers is going to go from the initial side and going the counterclockwise motion. It's going to continue until I hit that terminal side. So one of my answers, so we'll just kind of note it here, answer number 1 is going to be that full 2 pi minus my 1.168080485. So my solution in this case, one of my angle measures is going to be 5.115104822 radians. Okay, so we do want to spend a little bit more time on this though. Okay, so notice here that the coordinate point that I got, oops, let me undo that. The coordinate point that I got at the terminal side, this has a y value equal to negative 92 hundredths. So you need to ask yourself, is there any other area or is there any other quadrant in this circle where you could get a negative y value of 92 hundredths? And you should say, well, everything over here in the third quadrant would also give me a y value, so I could find a y value of negative 92 hundredths here. And here is where you can use your reference angle. So I'm going to have a reference angle here, and again it will be with a 1.168. So if I want to draw that in, so in other words, again, starting from that initial side that I usually start with and going my usual counterclockwise, I want to end here. So answer 2 will be pi. And again, I'll kind of illustrate that. So I'm going to go a full rotation of pi, and then I'm going to add the rest of this reference angle of 1.168080485. And this is going to result in a solution of around 4.309673139 radians. These are the only two places where I can get an output of negative 92/100ths with a sine function, because again, if you look at the first and second quadrant, the y values would be positive because we're on the positive portion of the coordinate plane. Okay, and again, if you're kind of confused about like, well, where did the negative go? Again, it's all depending on which way you're drawing that angle. If we are going clockwise, then we're creating a negative measure of an angle. If we're going counterclockwise, like we usually do, we're forming the positive form of this. So I hope that this explanation has been helpful. If you do need anything, please message me via WAMAP, send me an email, or feel free to leave a comment on YouTube.